During the last legislative session, lawmakers squabbled over what to do with a rainy day fund. Governor Perry argued to save it for a future emergency like a hurricane or a rash of wildfires like this.
And now the leader of the state's Firemen's and Fire Marshals Association says the state should heavily consider that option because, as our Josh.Steven.Hinkle found out today, there's not enough money to fund this fight, especially if you're a volunteer.
Rugged terrain makes finding what's left of the Pedernales fire tough. These teams search for smoke to make sure what's hidden in the brush doesn't add to the 5,500 acres already burned and the 30 homes already destroyed.
Then we'll have another wildfire kick off on us again.
Hotspots like this continue to pop up all over the area, some of them just yards away from homes like that. It isn't safe yet, and that's why it's important for these guys to stay out here. Some of them are volunteers, and they've been away from their jobs without pay for hours, even days, and it's really starting to take a toll on their families and their lives.
Each set, just what you see here, is about $300, and it's because it's made of fire retardant material.
Volunteers make up most of the state's firefighting force, and they don't always get money back when they shell out their own.
About 86% of all volunteer firefighters around the nation take money out of their personal pocketbooks in order to put fuel in the trucks or buy equipment for the fire department.
FEMA funding will help if it comes through, especially since the state started cutting back last week.
That state grant program that affects volunteer fire departments got cut from $25 million a year to just $7 million.
Volunteers came from across Texas this week to fight the fires in this area.
It's something I choose to do. I mean, a volunteer, you know, it's what you do.
A spirit of sacrifice. For them, maybe losing a little, but for others, saving a lot more. In West Travis County, Josh.Hinkle, KXAN News. The first fact-finding mission for the Texas Wildfire Prevention Task Force took us nearly 500 miles west.
The Fort Davis area has been one of the hardest hit areas.
The team's headed up by Ag Commissioner Todd Staples.
Look at the damage that they had last year.
From the air, you could see terrain struggling to recover after nearly 315,000 acres burned last spring.
Well, there's no substitute for being on the ground.
Soon we were on the road. See, the fire came right across this stretch. Surveying where the wildfire did its worst.
Those fences look pretty new.
Yeah, they are. There wasn't a fence left between Marfa and Fort Davis.
Really? Because it did take them all out.
Yes, sir.
At our first stop, ranchers recounted their losses.
All of these electrical poles are new as far as you can see, and the fence as well, all the way to Fort Davis, both sides of the highway.
Wiley Dabbs said the ranch he managed lost 100 head of cattle.
And they cut the fence to let the cattle get on the highway. The fire jumped the highway so fast that there wasn't a whole lot they could do.
Nobody was really prepared for that kind of fire. Then once we run out of electricity, the substation burnt down, so we didn't have any water to fight fire with and whatnot.
23 homes, including one on Dabbs Ranch, destroyed. Wildlife once flourishing, now gone. Vegetation is returning slowly, but still scarce on the hilltops.
Some of the hot, intense areas, the grass and forage is just not rebuilding like it was.
Only time will tell what happens from now.
It's 21 miles from where our plane landed in Marfa to right here in Fort Davis. The Rock House fire was one of the biggest in Texas last year. It took only an hour for it to make it that far, and it burned for 30 days after.
Todd Staples, who's the commissioner of Texas Department of Agriculture.
More stories at the courthouse in Fort Davis.
By no means are we out of the danger zone.
As local leaders and more ranchers talked about their own firefighting efforts.
Continue fighting it and try to save forage.
Hoping to help Staples and the state understand what happened.
By the time I got through with the fire guard,
to make sure their loss doesn't happen again.
They've got that passion to continue to carve out a life and livelihood out of the wide open spaces.
In Fort Davis, Josh.Hinkle, KXAN News.
We're going to take this really slow today so everybody can kind of watch.
Just south of Sonora, in the driest 100-degree heat.
Okay, you guys watching over here real good, right?
This group is intentionally starting a fire. It's called a prescribed burn.
It'll be part of the fuel source.
And here at the Academy for Ranch Management, it's all part of a day's lesson.
I'm trying to get as much education as possible so that I can apply it to the property that I manage.
Adam Yinsky runs a ranch near Bandera, where wildfires have come close.
Neighbors come, their fires come up to the fence line or near our fence line.
Today, he's in charge of the drip torch.
It gets a little warm. If you're used to it, it doesn't bother you too bad.
Lighting brush ablaze to burn away the main fuel for a wildfire.
Well, after this pasture is burned off here, it's going to be, you know, another barrier. So when we've got widespread wildfires coming through, and if this guy's on fire, we'll know that this pasture has been burned off already, and it's got fresh green grass, and it will act as a burn break for these wildfires.
But a prescribed burn goes far beyond the fire.
Watch for any little puff of smoke.
You've got the flappers.
Go ahead and blow that out.
The people stomping out any stray flames. You've got the backpackers wetting the ground to stop the spread.
Go ahead and get on your four-wheeler and just keep circling back and forth.
And those circling the site to watch for other outbreaks.
We're going to try to get this corner burned off.
Crews are starting here and going across these 7 acres. Something this big with so many people working on it really does require someone in charge. It's what these guys call the burn boss. But finding someone like that in Central Texas is a little tough.
There are only 5 total, 2 commercial in Kerrville and Center Point, and 3 private in Austin, Marble Falls, and Fredericksburg. Bastrop County has none, even after one of the worst wildfires in Texas history last year. Throughout 2011, the county saw 32 fires and lost 37,000 acres and nearly 1,700 homes.
The burn boss said come around this mott, so we're coming around the mott.
Anyone has the right to burn on their own land, as long as there's not a burn ban.
With a burn ban in effect, a professional certified prescribed burn manager can burn during a burn ban.
But to do that or burn elsewhere, you need the know-how.
Not backing just real good, but it's burning a little bit.
And getting the certification to manage the crew of that burn can be tough.
It's 2 sessions of 3 days each. They cost about $400 for each session.
3 years burning experience, 30 burns that they've been on, and 5 that they've been the lead, the individual responsible. And that they carry the $1 million, $2 million aggregate liability insurance.
Insurance for your crew can run a couple $1,000s a year. Part of the reason the state's had a hard time recruiting burn managers.
And unless you know that you're going to make money off of it, it's not worth doing it.
4 years ago, in 2008, Texas had 14 burn managers. Thanks to outreach, that number's now gone up to 67.
And we've made a good start.
Now there's a new coalition of 600 volunteers, the Prescribed Burn Alliance of Texas. But without burn managers, there aren't as many fires to set.
Come around here. There you go.
So their goals are grants and government funding to offset the certification cost.
Watch what happens when it hits the grass.
Also working with insurance providers on more affordable coverage.
Double, triple, quadruple the amount of prescribed burning that's going on.
I almost feel the land thanking me.
Yinsky says he took this course needing to learn how to protect his ranch.
Once we get this in, this whole corner ought to be really safe.
But after today, he might be ready to work toward that leadership role, burning even more brush and getting ahead of wildfires across the state.
This is the next step.
Last year, more than 3 million acres burned in Texas. If you want to find out how many fires burned in your county, plus how many homes firefighters saved, you can log on to KXAN.com right now and search our interactive database by county. You can find that on this story on the homepage at KXAN.com. In Edwards County, Josh.Hinkle, KXAN News.